Marie, more and more Labour MPs are calling for a ceasefire. The Scottish leader Anas Sarwar and Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London, have also called for one. Keir Starmer, of course, is not. Talk us through the internal party politics of this, because Starmer's position reflects his determination not to tolerate any form of anti-Semitism in the party, doesn't it?
At risk of being cynical, I think that Keir Starmer's problem with this is that a lot of what he's been doing so far is going, okay, what would Corbyn do? Like, what would Jeremy Corbyn do in this situation? Great, I will do the opposite. Which, again, to be fair to him, I think that's worked very well so far in many things. But I think, and again, I don't really have a line into the leader's office at the moment. So this is no intel I'm talking about. But I'm kind of guessing, and it's sort of, oh my God, sorry, I'm trying to choose my word carefully, and instead I'm just using too many of them. But no, it sort of felt, especially when Keir Starmer was on LBC, and at the beginning, so he later apologised, but refused to condemn Israel withholding water and electricity from Gaza, stuff like that. That kind of seemed to me like a leader who assumed that, now the cranks are gone, then, we can sort of do this sort of stuff without opposition, and not really realizing the fact that actually it is, it's not. And I personally find it infuriating, it's not cranky behavior to care about the livelihood of Palestinians. And also, I think, there are lots of Muslims and people of Arab heritage in the party at any level, from Labour voters to members to councillors, over 20 of whom have now left the party, to MPs and even, shadow frontbenchers, etc. So I think that they were clearly taken aback by the opposition they got internally to their quite hard line on what's going on. And I think that they're not fully backtracking, but I do think that though Starmer has been enforcing party kind of discipline with quite a firm hand so far in his leadership, this may be one of the issues where he just has to say, actually, you know what? If you feel strongly about this, I'm not going to stop you. We do have a party line, but if you want to deviate from it, then you can. Because, there's been several stories about shadow frontbenchers considering resigning from the front bench over this. So, I don't think they'd seen it coming because, and that's a problem, I think, of the left everywhere. They kind of saw it through the lens of, but what does this mean for the left? Which is not always, the best way in which to think about stuff, I think.
A number of Labour councillors have quit because of its stance on the war. Is that adding to the pressure for Starmer to pick a side?
I do believe it is. And again, I think several people have threatened resigning from the front bench. So it is very much, I think, an issue people feel incredibly strongly about. And it is. And, I will say it feels kind of part of a wider issue as well, where the Labour Party has been relying on Muslim votes for a very long time and yet kind of ignoring it, assuming that, Muslims can't really go anywhere else. And again, that's definitely, I think, been kind of like bubbling in the background for some time, and which is why I think you're seeing all these resignations and people going, enough. Like it's kind of the last straw rather than just like this one issue kind of out of nowhere. But also, I think, even from a cynical perspective, they should be aware of the fact that so I think like 3 parliamentary seats have a majority of Muslim voters, and a few dozen seats have like a large enough Muslim bloc that they could sway the election in that specific seat, etc. So it is, they do need, and I hate saying the Muslim vote because it's obviously not one bloc, and people are different and think differently, etc. But it is fair to say that the conflict is something that is, very close to the heart of lots of Muslim voters and Labour Muslim politicians. And I think even anecdotally, I've seen a number of people on social media already saying, I'm just not going to vote next election. Then I'm just going to stay at home, and that's that. I'm not fine. I'm probably not going to vote for anyone else realistically, but Labour is losing my vote over this.
You're hearing the same thing in the US for what it's worth with regard to Biden, which is quite, and I kind of agree for the very same reason. It's one of those things where I think they're taking advantage, thinking it's a year away. They'll forget. I think that there's a very real risk that they won't, though, and that they'd rather just sit it out, as you say, than vote for someone who they think kind of in kind of the worst sort of articulation of it oversaw genocide and didn't do anything.